Hey everyone, thanks for checking out another one of these official Gray Fox Games videos. I am Lance Meister, the undead Viking of the board game world. Uh, Somehow the marketing troll, got out of his spot in the basement. Mike, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. 2 weeks from today, when we're recording this, so you probably aren't seeing this, and if you're watching this, you're not seeing the exact time, but 2 weeks from today, I will be on a plane, like on my way to Indianapolis for the biggest 4 days of gaming, Gen Con. And that's what we're going to talk about today, Gen Con, which I guess is it really the biggest 4 days of gaming?
You know, that's an interesting question. I think there's a lot of really good conventions out there. Gen Con, I think, would probably take the title mostly because of just the sheer size of it, right? On this side of the pond. There isn't an event that has a bigger attendance that is solely focused on board gaming. There's a lot of really good events. And Gen Con is certainly an exciting week. It's got a lot of my favorite part about Gen Con is just the variety of things that you can participate in while you're there. It's not just a showroom floor, right? It's got all the different things, and I know my wife and I definitely enjoy the block party with all the different food trucks and stuff like that. So
Yep.
it's a good time. Almost regard like I think you could genuinely have fun at Gen Con even if you didn't know what tabletop gaming was, and I think that's the mark of a good event for sure.
And you kind of made a interesting point there where you said that it's the board game hobby or whatever. And obviously we're going to talk about board games and the board game hobby here, but Gen Con, I mean, it got started as basically a role-playing game convention. And I can remember like the first year ever that like Wizards of the Coast slash D&D, they just didn't have an official booth. I mean, they just said, no, we're just not going to do Gen Con anymore. And I remember that was a big deal. That was like a huge, switch from the focus of, I think, went away from tabletop role playing experience. Now, mind you, there are still plenty of people that have events and exhibitors that their focus is role playing games. Places like Goodman Games or Chaosium, or I'm blanking, of course, on the third one that I can't think of. What's the one with the BattleTech people? Catalyst. Catalyst is
Yes.
also there. So there are definitely that aspect. But yes, most of like the high profile exhibitors, I think we can all agree, is the board game hobby. And those are the ones that have the big booths and like the cool stuff and everything like that. So we're obviously going. This I we were talking right before we started this. I think the first time I ever went to Gen Con was either 2008 or 2009. And I've gone every year since then, minus the COVID year. Uh, but and I went as an attendee at first, and then when I started working the hobby, I started going and working as a booth person. And you were trying to guess yours as well. When was the first time you went?
I'm pretty sure it was 2016 because it was a year or two before the 50th anniversary. And I remember one of the first booths that I visited, and I remember pieces of it because it was the booth that was carrying Scythe. Scythe had just started to fulfill to its Kickstarter backers, I think. And
Hmm.
I didn't even know what Kickstarter was at the time. I just saw this giant booth with these
Ah.
giant boxes of games, right? And I remember Scythe was the first game that I bought at Gen Con, and it's hard to forget, mostly because Scythe is a very good game. The box was so massive, and lugging that giant box around Gen Con was a lesson learned the first year. First of all, you buy the big stuff at the end of the day, or you
Yes.
take it back immediately. So that was a lesson learned. But I'm pretty sure it was 2016 because it looks like that was the release year for Scythe, and I do know that that was the first game I bought. And here's the interesting thing. So the first year that I went, I only went for one day. And that was the other lesson learned, is that Gen Con cannot be done in a day, at least in my opinion. Mostly because of all those extra things that I talked about earlier, right? The other fun that there is to have. It's tough to do it all in a day. And so yeah, that I'm pretty sure it was 2016. And like you, I have been back every year since. And I have actually gone every year as just an attendee. I have actually just gone there on my own dime as someone looking to have a good time and enjoy the hobby for what it is, which is um, a true hobby for me. Even though now I work in the universe, I've always kind of saved that weekend for fun, because it's something that me and a bunch of so I actually have a whole caravan that comes down with me. It's me,
Oh,
my wife, a bunch of friends of ours that have come with us at different points over time, and not all of them have come every year, but so it's a big caravan, and it's just kind of an excuse for a bunch of us to get together over the weekend and spend 4 days focused on board games, and it's pretty fun.
yeah, and I often wonder. I mean, there was a lull. There was like a 6 month lull when I stopped working at Tasty Minstrel Games before I started working at Gray Fox, and I remember Gen Con happened during that lull, and I was able to go because I had all my travel plans and everything already set in place, and so I remember I went to Gen Con. I went with my kid. I mean, this was, 6 years ago. So 12, maybe my child was at that time. And I remember we went and it was a lot of fun just because that's the last thing kind of I got to where we just wandered. We were able to wander and experience everything. And I haven't been able to do that in a long, long time. So hopefully maybe one day when I retire, I can go back and enjoy the show, the spectacle, if you will. But Gray Fox Games is at booth 2603 this year. I mean, and obviously you're going to forget that, but you can check us out at that booth. And, I'm excited. I'm always excited to go to Gen Con because I get to talk to a bunch of people that I've talked to at previous conventions. There are people that, and not just people that are other publishers and other people that work in the industry. I mean, these are just people that I've gotten to know after years of convention going, where they'll come up to it and it's like, "Hey, how's it going?" People that have purchased things from me, just people that like, that maybe I played a game with at one time or another. Um, and I'm excited because we, I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes our booth planning for Gray Fox Games is not because we're busy with other things, being doing production and making stuff. Like our plan for the actual booth and the booth setup, it tends to be a little bit hurried, I guess would be the word. A more negative word would be the word slapdash would be the process. But we actually made it a point where we were discussing, and we've had several meetings, and Mike, you've been there for them, where we've talked about things that we absolutely positively need, and things that can just do a better job presenting the games that we're showing off. I'm excited the fact that we have banners that I kind of have a banner at Origins for two games that we don't even have anymore. And so that was like, but yeah, it's like Gray Fox Games, and there were boxes in front of it. So that was kind of, but now we're gonna have like brand new banners that we're gonna be able to show off. We've got some plans to, as a lot of people know, I mean, if you own our games, we put out promos for our games all the time. Obviously, the two big games we put out tons of promos for are Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, and Champions of Midgard. We are, and usually that's one of those things where it is difficult for people to remember which promos they have, which promos they don't. We actually are going to have a large display board that's going to be set up. It's going to actually say the name of the promo on it. It's going to show the cards really well. So people are going to be able to look at those things. I will say this, if you are going to be attending Gen Con or just in general, it's always a good idea to be like, go through your games, and not just if it's Champions of Midgard games, but go through your games before. And if you do have small expansions or promos, something like that, make an itemized list. So when you get there, you don't end up like saying, I don't know if I own this or not. you'll either A, not buy it because you're not sure and then it isn't available later, or B, worse, you buy it and then you bring it home and you realize you already have it.
Lance, I have to laugh, Lance, because you're exactly right. I actually am ashamed on some level to admit I have twice bought an expansion for a game that I didn't realize that I already had. Um, because like a lot of folks, right, you buy everything for a game and you play certain pieces of the game a lot, but then all of a sudden you maybe you haven't gotten to that expansion yet and you realize, oh man, I don't think I have this, and turns out you do. But promos as well. I have bought duplicates of promos on multiple occasions, and the nice thing is I have a fairly large game group, so I just pass them off to other folks. But it is definitely worth taking the time to take a little bit of an inventory and scan your shelf and go, okay, what do I have?
Well, yeah, and I want to talk. I mean, I definitely want to focus on what you're gonna be able to see what Gray Fox has, but there's tons of stuff you and I can talk about Gen Con here. I mean, the last thing I want to make sure that I focus on is that we'll obviously be showing off deluxe versions of our games, including After the Empire and Last Light. So if you missed out on those games, you've been thinking about picking those up, and you want the deluxe versions with all the extra Kickstarter bits, we're going to be having those for sale and to show off so you can actually see what they are, and we'll be talking about how those games are played. But we're also going to have like some of our Champions 10th anniversary bits. We've gotten several of those from our manufacturer. That when they say, "Is this how you want the dice to look?" or "Is this how you want the big giant plastic ships that are going to be included in the game? Is this how you want those to look?" So we have those like materials that they've sent us, and we're going to have those to show off. So people are going to be able to like get a pick things up and touch them and feel them and see how cool the 10th anniversary Champions of Midgard is going to be. Which I should mind you, if you haven't backed it and you think it's something you want to pick up, I strongly suggest you do go over to GameFound and get in on the late pledge. You can guarantee yourself a copy of it. And also, a lot of times people say, "Well, I already own everything for Champions of Midgard. Why would I want this?" I've got the base game, I got the expansions, and that's fine. But I guarantee you don't have all the promos. We have promos. We have a promo pack level on the Pledge Manager that is just going to be a pack of all the promos that have ever been made for Champions of Midgard, including a brand new promo that we unlocked during the campaign, and also several, and I'm talking several, that were only made for different language versions of the game. They've never been made in English, and those will be made. And all of those promos will have brand new art in them. So there's something there for everyone. But the commercial part of this video is now over. Now we can just dig deep and talk about experiences and talk about whatever. And Mike, you talked a little bit about your first ever time attending Gen Con. When you go, how much research did you go into like what's the best way to prep for this, or what's the how should I handle going to this giant convention for the first time ever?
Yeah, it's funny. My first time is very different than honestly what happens now. My first time, I was fairly new to tabletop. I kind of just came across Gen Con in some ways by accident. I was just poking around for things about board gaming and came across it, and I was laughing because I remember we went for one day, right? Like, and I actually kind of forget that sometimes that we tried to do it all in one day, and that was so. To answer that your point about like what prep, I didn't do any prep, and that was. That was a gross mistake because I had no idea what to expect and I had no idea what I was in for, and so after that first year, I believe the next year was the 50th anniversary, and that year it was much different. I knew obviously for the 50th they were going to do a bunch of specialty stuff, so like I did a lot of investigating of like what were the special events that were going on, and Gen Con does a great job of putting up all of the programs and events that they're going to have ahead of time. That's one thing they do really, really well.
Hmm.
And so it's available even if you were to have looked a while ago, but definitely today you can go in and see just all of these things that you're able to do at Gen Con. And the other thing that I would tell folks, because I know this is a point of frustration. So the day that you were able to sign up for all the events and things that you wanted to do has passed for a couple months ago. So that big first wave of people coming in and grabbing all the events they want to do is past. But what people don't realize sometimes is if there's something you want to do and it is sold out, you should still like swing by the area that it's happening at the time that it's running. Obviously, maybe a few minutes before, because people don't show up to things all the time. If the event does cost a few dollars, just bring some generic tickets with you. And there's a lot of times where you can get into an event you wanted to get into, even though it was sold out, because folks don't show up. So lots of
Yep.
things happen. It's a happening place with lots of things going on. People get distracted. People can't make it. People are hungry. Whatever the case might be. So definitely do the prep work. And honestly, I have more than one friend that does this. He will literally take a small notebook that he brings with him and just writes all these things out. Even though it's easy enough to do it in the app, he just likes having that quick reference so that as he's poking around, because he wasn't able to say sign up for the events, he wanted to have a list of just times and things and places for him to be, just to see if he can sneak into some of the events that were full. So that is definitely something I would recommend, having a plan in terms of events. And the other thing that having a plan does, to be honest with you, is it allows the weekend to not feel overwhelming. It is a lot of people. It is, especially on Saturday, very, very crowded. Friday is also pretty crowded, but it is a busy weekend. And if you don't have a plan, it's easy for the weekend to feel overwhelming by large, just because of the sheer volume of everything. So having that plan, at least for me and a lot of the people that I travel with, makes it feel smaller, so to speak, right? Like you have this schedule, and those are the things you're trying to do, and then you just kind of fill in the gaps with other things that you find to do.
Yep.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely give a look and check out all the things, because the exhibit hall is the easy thing to get lost in because it's so massive. There's so many great publishers and artists and different things to look at and see and obviously buy and take home with you. Um, but there is so much going on around the convention center all weekend long, and there's a lot of fun to be had.
Yep. Absolutely. My biggest thing is that I remember when I went the first time ever, like I said, it was 2008 or 2009. But the first time I went, I remember that it was still busy, but everything was way more condensed and smaller. I mean, Gen Con has just grown by leaps and bounds. And I remember, like, when I got there, I was a little bit nervous about how it was going to look or what it was going to look like, and I started just walking around Gen Con and walking around the exhibit hall. And if I got there first thing in the morning and I just started walking up and down the aisles, I remember I was able to get through the entire thing in a day. And that's with like, oh, that looks interesting. I'll stop. Oh, that looks interesting. That stops. There's no way you can do that now.
Yeah.
They have added basically a whole other exhibit hall to the exhibit hall from the time that I originally attended, and and also they aren't nice as far as like making it just lines, right? I mean, there there's
Yeah.
there's too many, like there's the big giant booth areas that will block you, and so you might be heading down like lane 2700, but all of a sudden there's this giant booth of whatever
Yeah.
company, and you got to go around it, and now all of a sudden you've kind of lost track of where you've made it. My biggest suggestion to anybody is a couple of things. You need to, if you have publishers that you always just want to go and check out and see what they have, uh, get that notepad or do it in your phone. But I'm old. I'm a bit stuck in my ways. I have a small notepad as well that usually the weekend before I leave, I will take a few hours. I'll sit down in front of this computer and I want to check this out. What's the name of it? What's the booth number? and just, and I'll do that. I'll do that whole process. And you start, and I enumerate it, like, I do it through by the numbers, right? So you can start and saying, okay, I'm going to go to booth 217, and then my next booth is 305. There's nothing worse than like having somebody say, oh yeah, this is something really cool. Oh, where'd you get it? Oh, I got it over at booth 3201, and you are in the 300s, and you just kind of look at that sea of humanity, and you're just like, Screw it." You're just, because you just know, because you feel like you skip everything trying to get over there anyway. So
Yeah.
just you got to have a plan, and you got to know what you're interested in. You're going to see stuff that you didn't know existed before you got there, and that's fine. And I think that's a wonderful aspect of the whole Gen Con experience, is discovering that cool new stuff. Like, I mean, last year I was just walking by and I saw that, Halloween, my wife and I really enjoy celebrating Halloween. We decorate the entire house, we decorate the entire front yard. We go full on board to celebrate Halloween. It's just like, it's our fun holiday. And I saw they had this, like, very, not like gruesome in any way, but a fun Halloween banner of like monsters going trick or treating, and this woman had it up, and I was like, that's really cool. And she's like, oh yeah, it's like, did you want to buy it? And I was like, how much was it? And it was reasonable for how much it was. And I was like, absolutely, I do. Yeah. And she said, well, I can't give it to you now because I use it to display it, for people walking by so they can buy a print for it. But at the end on Sunday, I'll take it down and I'll actually package it up for you, and you'll have it. But it's stuff like that that you'll
Yeah.
that you'll walk by and you'll see super cool things like that. My other big suggestion always, if you do see something you like on Friday and you're kind of like, you know, um, I mean, be fine with the idea that come Saturday it'll be gone. Publishers run out of stuff all the time. They run out of like the games that you have. They and which, not to go back to commercial mode, but one of the things that we always do at Gray Fox Games is that, like, if you come to us and say, "Hey, I wanted this," and I say I don't have it anymore, as long as you live in the United States and you contact me, we'll let you pay convention price and we'll ship it to you for free. That's one of the things that we've just always said. It's like, we'll make it happen. So, and we'll get those orders out. But if you're, either you gotta buy it or be fine with the idea that if you next day you're like, I really should have picked that up, you gotta be okay with the fact that it isn't there anymore. And if it's really awesome, the person will have it for sale on their website or something anyway. You just don't get to have it in your hands, which of course is the best part, right? You get to have it in your hands and you get to look at it right there, and you get to feel it, you get to touch it. I mean, what I remember from my first convention is just being overwhelmed, just being overwhelmed, and not like, just being astounded by how much stuff was there. I also now think of the fact that when we were leaving, Joel Eddy was the guy I went with, Drive Through Review. Shout out to Joel Eddy. When I went with him, as we were leaving, he said, "Do you want to go again next year?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And as we were leaving, he booked his hotel room for the next year at Gen Con. And at the Omni, it was like, the Omni Western, like right next to the convention center. He was like, "Yeah, I'd like this day through this day, and I'd like to book the room right now." And they're like, "Can do." And we made a reservation for a hotel right next to the convention center the day we were leaving for the convention. I mean, it was like, there's no way on earth you don't that just does not happen, and
It
it
sure
can't
does
happen.
not. It
So
does not.
that's the thing. I mean, have you looked at anything that's coming out this year? I mean, have you perused the items? Something that isn't Gray Fox related that you're like, huh, that's something I want to snag? Or
You know,
are you just gonna wander?
it's funny. Like like this is like that evolution, right? So in the beginning, I didn't really know how how to do any of that, right? And then the years after, I used to do a lot of prep work, like curious about what games are there to demo for the first time, what games are going to be available for available to buy for the first time. um and I was pretty, I leaned pretty heavy into that for several years. And the funny thing is, everything is old as new again, right? So now I'm back to the mentality, and probably because I have far, like a lot of people, I have far too many games on my shelf at this point in life,
Get rid of
and
them.
so
Get rid of them.
I um, I
I
take it
shouldn't say
much.
that. As a board game publisher, I shouldn't say that.
Uh, uh,
For me, it was very sad. Well, I was a board game reviewer for years, so
yep.
I used to get free games. I mean, I my collection dwarfs, or I should say dwarfed most people's normal collection. I mean, I had like
Yes.
5,000, 6,000 games at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a
Luckily,
lot.
I have almost I have very few left compared to that. But anyway, go ahead.
No, it's just funny because like I probably have, if I had to guess, oh, probably between 300 and 500 games. I would guess, if you include expansions and all that
That's
kind of stuff.
barely anything. That's barely
Um,
anything.
so it's one of those things where like and like the key is I will say this, we actually keep track and whatnot, and so like I've played all of the games that I own.
Well,
Was
that's actually the most rare thing anybody can say, honestly.
Yeah, with very few exceptions, and the exceptions are mostly games that have come into my collection very recently, right? Um, so I'm pretty picky now about the things that I add to it because if it's not something that does something incredibly unique or new or is just a theme that I absolutely love, I'm kind of picky. So I go in with much more of an open mind, and it I actually have found that I like that better, right? Like I actually have found um way more cool, or I shouldn't say way more, but I have found some really cool things because I don't come in with as much of a plan in terms of like, oh, I want to go check this out, I want to check this out. Like I do a lot more planning on the event side and like different things that I want to go do. But from like the product standpoint, I'm much more like come as it will kind of thing. And so nothing really that I would underline as like oh I've kind of underscored this as something that I have to play or have to purchase, um but yeah, it's kind of by design, and it's just been something that's kind of worked the last couple of years. So it's fun to just see new things.
It is. Now, I will say that if anybody's wondering what's coming out, and this will be a shout out to boardgamegeek.com, might be
Yep.
familiar with the website.
Yep.
They do have a fabulous Gen Con preview.
I do.
Right now, it's got over 500 titles of games that are going to be sold at Gen Con, that are being demoed at Gen Con. So and you can filter that for however you want. If you're looking for a uh, I guess like a just a resource. They do a very good job of prepping you for what's going to be coming out and what you should be picking up. I end up I as much as I try to say I'm not going to get any more games because when am I going to play them or when am I going to do? I always end up being a sucker for it. I always end up picking up between 2 to 6 games. Usually at Gen Con, I bring my oldest child with me, and they end up convincing me that they need a game or two, or that game looks cool,
Uh-huh.
and that's all you got to say to dad because well, I mean, it's okay if I get it because my kids said it was cool. I mean,
Right.
normally I wouldn't bother, but just because my kid thought it looked cool, we should get that. But actually, there is one game, and this is that is has nothing to do with. Well, actually, I should say um, there's two games or whatever, or two things that interest me. The first one is the fact that apparently Osmodi Games is going to release a Ultimate Innovation, which if you played Innovation, it's a very, very clever game, very, very fun game. But they're gonna, and I've long since gotten rid of my copies of it, and every once in a while I'd get the itch to play it, but it was gone. Um, but they're basically selling a big box, and it's gonna have all of the expansion stuff in that. Which if you never played Innovation, it is a card game that is about civilization. It's a civilization card game that's very, very clever. It's actually one of the owners of Gray Fox Games, Josh. It's one of his favorite games, and it is an extremely clever game. And they're going to sell a big box version of that, and I'll be able to replace the one that I lost all those years ago or what have you. But The only other one that like as far as I'm a sucker for a heavy euro, and even though like I can rarely get it to a table and I can rarely convince people to play it, but Pandasaurus has their English version of Shackleton Base that was an Essen release last year, but now it is going to be available. From the they were originally it was originally from the publisher who has probably the best, other than Gray Fox Games, has the best name of any publisher. Sorry, we are French. Is it's just such a great name. But Shackleton Base looks to be just an absolutely amazing worker placement with different worker types, and that's something that I've always loved. Any single time it's a worker placement game where you have different types of workers that when you place them in a spot, they give you
Yeah.
different things and different abilities. So it's that extra layer
Yeah.
of it. I get excited about that. And so yeah, I mean that's something that from what I understand, people have been pretty keen on the game. And plus it has some heaviness to it, which I don't mind at all. So that's the only other thing that I'm keen to pick that out. So much as so I did reach out to the publisher and say, hey, make sure you save one for me. Just so not for free. I'm gonna go pay him for it, but I mean, I definitely was like, I definitely want to get one. So, but that being said, if you're watching this video and you're going to Gen Con, one, I would love for you to stop by booth 2603. Let us know that you watch this. Two, if you want to talk about games or more games, you can join our official Discord. There'll be a link down below where you can join in on us, get access to special deals that we offer, also be part of our playtesting group so you can help us make the games that we make even better. And three, if you're watching this regardless, especially if you're going to go to Gen Con, like, what are you interested in that's at Gen Con? Just what are you looking to try out, test out, play out, whatever, when you get there? Um, Mike, do you have any other parting ideas or theories or ideas about Gen Con?
Only just for the weirdos who haven't memorized all the booth numbers at Gen Con. Just in case you were curious, if you've seen Gray Fox Games at Gen Con before, that 2603 location is pretty much the spot we've been in the last few years. So you don't have to go hunting for us in some new spot. It is that same booth right at that front area. I guess you'd call it on the right half of the exhibit hall floor. So,
Yeah, it's right next
just
to that giant airplane hangar that people are
yeah.
playing games in. So
Yeah. So it's if you don't have the booth numbers memorized, you're like, oh, 2603, where is that? It's in the spot we've been for years. So if you've been to Gen Con, likely in the recent few years, and you've seen us at Gen Con, it is that same spot, or at least in that very similar area. And so no hunting necessary if you're like, oh, I don't know where that is.
great point, and it's good that you mentioned that. I mean, the only other thing is that I'm just going to tell you the other standard stuff that I tell anybody that goes to convention. Wear your most comfortable pair of shoes, whatever that is.
Yes.
Um, two, shower. Just because you won't realize just how much you sweat during a day of walking around and doing everything and being around people. And just so make it a point to clean yourself up. I'm not calling anybody out for anything. It's just a good, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you don't recognize it because you're having so much fun. You don't realize what's going on. And you don't realize, just, if you've been like kind of doing a little walk and workout, you don't realize that, that's part of the process. Three, hand sanitizer and wash your hands. You touch money, wash your hands. Use hand sanitizer, and and take a vitamin C tablet in the morning too. I mean, you probably won't, your body will just probably flush it out of the system without anything. But man, oh man, nobody wants conk crud, and do what you can to avoid it, and take it a point to and just yeah. I mean, I don't know. The 4 days will be over before you know it.
Yeah.
So just try to enjoy it, but don't overdo it, I guess. Oh, what's your favorite place to go eat when you're in Indy?
Oh, we honestly we eat at the food trucks at the block party a lot. That is honestly the one of our favorite additions. So the food trucks were actually not a huge thing before the 50th anniversary. They were just kind of a small thing that were out in that courtyard right before St. Elmo's.
Yeah.
They used to do a few food trucks out there. And it was very popular the first couple of years that they did it, but for the 50th, they brought in a ton of food trucks and it got even more popular. And now, like, it used to be like maybe, and I'm sure my number is wrong, but it used to be like 6 food trucks, right? And now this year I think they're going to have 30 food trucks out in that block party area. And I think they had a roughly that same number last year, at least that number of spots. I don't know if the food trucks, the people that were here changed, but so we eat at the food trucks a lot, to be honest with you. There's also and I feel bad, but I cannot remember the name of the place. It's a German restaurant a few blocks away from me.
Rathskellers.
Yes, Rathskellers. That is it. I we've gone there a couple times. That's a great spot if you've never been. A lot of people like St. Elmo's a lot. That's a cool spot too. Lots of great places to go eat around Indy. There's no shortage, that's for sure.
There's no shortage, but I will just say this: it's always a good idea if you can manage it. Just walk 3 blocks away and find a restaurant there because the crowd will be reduced by 75%, and
Yep,
you'll
that is
actually
very
be
true.
able to eat in a relatively quick amount of time. But all right, thank you very much for taking the time to watch us, Mike. Thanks very much for your time as well. Yeah, I'll see you all at Gen Con.